Attention migrants, this is Migration Gist. Do you guys enjoy my intro video, my opening montage? No hassle, no stressing, no worries, all doubts. Listen, this is Migration Gist. You're welcome. If you're just watching for the first time, please go and watch the other episodes. My name is Maria Ocheja Ebo. Thank you for joining me today. Today we will be talking about the pretense not to understand African accents. But before we go into that, let's go through our very first segment today, which is RASQ, Random Act of Sharing a Quote. On today's quote, we have, our difference is not supposed to limit us. It is supposed to encourage our uniqueness. I'll say that again. Our difference, your difference, is not supposed to limit us, you. It is supposed to encourage our uniqueness. That's our RASQ for today. On today's Independence Day, we have a mix. So we have Victory Days, we have Freedom Days, and we have Independence Days. And these independence, or we just call them Independence Day because that's the envelope name. But like I said, we're celebrating different things today. And on the Independence segment for today, we have Bosnia and Herzegovina celebrating their Victory Day on May the 9th. May the 9th again, we have the EU Day, also known as the European Union Day. It is also known as Schuman Day. It's the day that Schuman Roberts proposed the creation of what later became Europe Coal and Steel Community, which they say is the progenesis, or the progenitor rather, of what we call EU. That was before Brexit, of course, because now that I don't know what's happening with that Brexit. I never involved myself in the full gist of that, but you get the gist. May 9th is also Guernsey Liberation Day. I've never heard, before I did the research, I'd never heard of the island called Guernsey. It's called the Bailiwick Islands of Guernsey. That's what it's called. And then in my research, I saw that the Bailiwick Island of Guernsey is a group of islands within the Channel Islands. So Guernsey is an island within the Channel Islands. We also are meant to understand that it's very safe, it's very vibrant, and it's a very beautiful place to live. Whether it's beautiful for every race, I can't tell. I did not do my research to that extent. So please, for those of you that love to travel, if you're going to travel, do your research. We have an airline that we are going to be partnering with that you can fly everywhere. I do not have the permission of this airline to call their names. That's why in the first episode of this first season, I didn't call their name. Now, let's go to the other country or the other island that is doing its Liberation Day. It's called the Bailiwick Island of Jersey. It's in between, I hear, England and France, and they have a marriage or a mixture of the English culture and the French culture. And if you know anything about me, I love the French. I don't know if they love me, but I love English and I love the French culture. So that would be a very beautiful place to live. And so that's Liberation Day for May the 9th. Then May the 10th, we have the Federated State of Micronesia celebrating its Constitution Day. So happy Constitution Day to you. And on the 14th of May, we have Israel celebrating its Independence Day. And for that, to my Israelite or Jewish friends, I would say Yom Ha'atzmaut. I hope I pronounced it correctly, but please do not sentence me. If I did not pronounce it correctly, you can send us an email at infomigist@santalolollc.com where I can formally stand corrected. You can add a voice note to that as well. Now, let's move on to the main gist for this second episode, which is pretending not to understand African accents. Welcome, it's Migration Gist. All right, thanks again for joining me here today. So we'll just run down through the list I have. You guys, you see, I'm a list girl because I don't want to miss out on any gist. So Number one, I have said this in the past that I feel like, or I believe that a lot of people pretend not to understand how some Africans speak until we have money or until we've had this achievement in school. And I'm not trying to get political here or start anything, but I'm just explaining or gisting you, my adorable migrants, my own experience, so that if you're about to come here from any part of Africa or from any other continent, you will be aware. And it's always such a shocking thing to me that all the Indians in America understood, but when it comes to the Africans, they don't understand the Africans. I see that a lot because there are some Africans or there are some other people from other parts of the world that have this very, I wanted to say sick and I wanted to say thick, but a combination of both is what, I don't know, thick accent. Like their accents are so thick, and there's nothing wrong with having an accent, right? As long as we can hear you. People that we can't even hear that use sign languages, I mean, as long as we understand what you're saying, you're fine. But I've seen that in more situations than not, I feel like a lot of Africans are somewhat bullied for having an accent. Let me give you an example. I believe in my heart that any educated person across the globe can hear this English I'm speaking. So it's very frustrating when I go and stand somewhere. I would not want to call any brand. Let's say I'm at a coffee shop or at a grocery or at a, store. And then I'm saying, oh, how much does this cost? How much is this thing? How much does it cost? I know you can hear me because somebody else that is maybe from Vietnam will come and say, cost this thing much? How much? And there you are telling them, oh, it's $5. So why can't you hear me? Like, is it because I'm black? Is it because, this has been my reality, and I felt that it should be a whole full topic for me on this channel or in this particular episode. So let me give you guys this gist about what I call the foreign experience. So you know the number 14, right? 14. Fourteen. 14. So I wanted to, I think at that time I was like a sales person. I just moved here. And before I even go into this whole 14 gist, sometimes like you're trying to tell somebody something and then they'll be telling you, oh, I can't really hear you. Oh my God, you have an accent. Oh, I can't really hear you. And I'm like, baby, we all have accents. All of us, surprise! We all have accents. Yay! We all do, okay? We all have accents. And I digress, but over to this 14 gist. So there was this particular time, a customer comes to me and then they were asking for the price of something, and I wanted to say 14. You know how Americans silence their T, which does not make sense? They'll say tomato, but you said the T in front of the tomato. So when you go to the end, why did you say ro? Tomato. It doesn't make potato. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. So that their whole T thing, it used to confuse me so much. So just because I wanted to feel I wanted to be among the crackers of the American accent, like, oh, I just came from my village in Africa and I just want to show the world that, girl, I got an American accent. So I stood there unashamedly and somebody asked me, like, how much does this thing cost? And then I'm like, oh, I think I wanted to say 14, and then I'm like, oh, it's $14. They were like, huh? I'm like, it's $14. It's like, oh no, we're not saying if it was imported. We're asking how much is it? Like, how much is this thing? And I just stood there like a big fool, just saying, foreign. That day I was so mad at myself. Like, I went home and I'm like, never again, because it was embarrassing. Like, I embarrassed myself. I wasted the time of the people that were trying to ask for the price of this thing. So migrants, it was just a lot. It's just something that, let's just say, I'm never going to do again. No, if you can't understand me, let's pull up Google. I type it out and Google will explain everything to both of us. And that's what I do right now, even for Hispanics that say, oh, no English, no English. I'm like, oh, okay. I just pull up my Google thing and I just type it in. Google will translate it to their language and we'll continue from there. So, dear migrant, if you're moving, please don't have inferiority complex because of accent challenge that you are trying to bestow on yourself. Like, it's just a lot and it's unnecessary. So, yeah. Now, this is different from having a lazy tongue. And the people I call having a lazy tongue are, if you can do the code switch and you can do it well, please do it. Don't be like people that will be like, have you ever heard those people that maybe you're like, oh, what time do you need to be at the airport? They'll be like, I'm gonna be there at 4:30. I'm sorry, I'm laughing. It's not funny, but if you're trying to code switch or you're trying to change your accents, like I do the code switch a lot. I'm guilty of the code switch. I code switch all the time. And again, like I've been so far so good to some places across the world. So like, yes, I can code switch and I code switch very well. So if I'm trying to talk in like maybe a different accent, and then when I switch to my American accent, honey, or my Southern accent, like, you know, my Texas accent, girl, I try. So I can do the code switch when I'm serious, and we're all of us immigrants. It does not matter the continent you're from. You can be from Australia, you can be from Antarctica, be a polar bear. I don't care. We are all guilty of the code switch. And I really, in my opinion, I believe strongly that a code switch is okay as long as you can push through with it. Like, you're not going to code switch and be calling 2:30 or 2:30 2:30. No, code switch properly. On to the next point I have. So with code switching here comes challenges. The code switch English between the UK and the US English it's a real war. It's a tough war, yeah. I need to sit properly to explain this one. It's a tough war because if you're in Texas, for example, honey, your accent is gonna sound something like Beyonce, polished or unpolished, either or. You get it. If you're from Texas, if you're from Alabama, if you're from Mississippi, if you're from any part of the South, your accent is going to sound different from people that are in like New York or New Jersey or just up north, Connecticut, those places. If you're in Philly, Chicago, Wisconsin, like it's like for every state there's a different accent. A Texan or a Californian and a New Yorker do not sound like the same things. Like they sound so different. In fact, you can pay me and I'll believe that they're from different countries. I mean, Texas used to belong to Mexico, so yeah. But I digress, but let's stick to the point. The accent struggle is different. I remember one time, Migrants, right? I went to one of these stores and I was asking for exercise book. I said, please, where can I find exercise book? And coming from Africa, where we ask for everything, instead of just reading, because if you walk into any of those stores and you just walk in and you look up the signs, you see they've written it. In fact, you can even download their apps and they've written it instead of us to read. But the Nigerian in me, I was still asking, hey, excuse me, please, where can I find the exercise book? They carried me to where they were selling yoga mats, jump ropes, dumbbells, and I'm like, no, not exercise things. I'm looking for an exercise book. And then they're like, oh, you mean a notepad? I'm like, I know English. I know how to speak English. I've spoken to some people before and then they're like, oh, maybe I said, who owns this thing? For example, I'm like, oh, who owns this thing? And they're like, it's mine's. I'm like, what kind of English is that? So coming from Nigeria, I'm used to pidgin English or what we call broken English. It's just a bastardized, it's a form of English, but it's twisted, it has its own flavor, mixed in a juicy cup. Belongs to the Nigerian people. Ghanaians have their own variant. Cameroonians have their own variant of the broken English or the pidgin English, like that. So in America, there's something called Ebonics, right? That Google says is spoken by less educated people, and that's where you hear things like, we was going to grandma's house, hey honey, it ain't gonna be me no more, honey, honey, like, you know, accents like that. So it's a different English. If you're coming from any country that was colonized by the Brits, you know that the English in America is really, really different. What, for the most part, I or any English speaking person would consider wrong or flawed in its lexical structure or lexicon structure. With the phonetics or the phonics, I know that Americans have their own. When they want to say butter or water, they'll roll it backwards. And I'm from, like, if I'm from the UK or I'm from any colonized country or federation or state of the English, I would say butter and I would say water, and you know, all my words I pronounce, I don't swallow anything. Great. So the battle is real, and some things are different. The first time I saw CVS, the pharmacy, I don't know why, and I'm not making this up. I'm not making this up. My husband can back me up. The first time I saw CVS, I said CVs, because coming from Nigeria, CVs is nothing like a pharmacy. CVs is what we submit to get jobs, what you call resume. You know, things will change as you, what's it called? In America, everybody would say, oh, my car, I got a new car, I got a new ride, oh, my car, you know. Everybody says that. But in Nigeria, yes, we do say car, but you would also hear moto, na my moto, you know. Things like the English changes as you move. So why am I saying this? I have said what I thought was right, or what was British English, because I consumed a lot of British English. Brighter Grammar, English Premier, you know, that book, Enid Blyton, a lot of English, so British English novelists I've read in my life in the past, or at least people like Wole Soyinka, who are Olarotimi, who I know were like carriers of the British English before I moved here. I've read their novels, and the structure, the grammar in their novels are more like what I would speak at home. Because in my house, my mom frowned at speaking broken or pidgin English. She just didn't like it. She didn't speak it. So what I thought was right as English, when I would come here and I'll say the same thing, you know, people around me, even at places of work, would be like, wait, what's she saying? What does that even mean? Oh my God, what's she saying? I remember the first day I was talking to someone and I said, and she wanted us to volunteer at this place because I had seen in movies how American kids would cuss people out, and where I'm from, cussing somebody out would take him or a shoe, you know, just if you know, you know, okay? I'm not violent or anything, but if you know, you know. So she wanted us to volunteer at this place, and I'm like, I don't want to, because I believe that American children can be petulant and recalcitrant. And this lady would have sworn that she had never heard those words before. Like, I use basic words that every other person in my household growing up in Nigeria knows, but this, I mean, by basic person, I mean my siblings and I. If I tell my sibling, oh, this child was being petulant or recalcitrant, my siblings know what it is. Like, you know, I grew up in the same house with them. Or I tell my mom, or I tell my dad, the light bulb comes on. Like, it doesn't even take a light bulb, because it's normal diction. I come to America and I say the same thing, and some people were just, no, I've never heard that word. Oh, did you make it up? And I'm like, please, let's use Google. So there is that struggle as well. So I don't know whether it's a pretense of not understanding African accents, because, honey, contrary to what all of you might think, all of us in Africa do not talk like this. Everybody does not talk like they talk in Wakanda. Are you people serious? Everybody in Africa does not talk like that. I've met people, and I said this like in the previous episode, oh, you talk so well, like for an African, oh, you speak so well. Honey, that shit ain't a compliment. Telling me English is my mother tongue. Have you ever heard of mother tongue? We have different variants of the English accent, but it's our mother tongue. Because by the time the Queen was making, bless her late soul, when the Queen was making trips to Nigeria, that's what my ancestors were speaking. So for you to say things like, oh, you talk so well, you speak good English. I don't know about you, I don't know about other immigrants, but for me, that statement is not a compliment. I've done, what's it called? I went to playgroup, pre-nursery, nursery, primary school, secondary school, university, masters, 7 levels of education. Everything was in English. Every single thing was in the English language. So for you to tell me you speak English so well because I'm telling you I'm coming from another country, honey, that ain't a compliment. You're not complimenting me for shit. It's not a compliment. I see it as an insult. I know it sounds like a well-meaning compliment, but when you tell somebody, and I must have said this to many people and they're tired of hearing it, when you tell me that all I'm seeing is an ignorant, ill-traveled, or never has left the state that you're in or the shore that you're in America, like you're just a bum, never traveled, illiterate, red flag, stay away. This is all we're seeing as migrants. So please send and share this video with I'm sorry, this is not to insult or belittle anybody, but anytime I tell Americans or Americans hear us speak as migrants or as expatriates, and you say things like, oh, you speak very good English for somebody from Nigeria, the only thing all I just heard was idiocy in a sentence. I'm sorry, but that's how it sounds. Okay, on to the next. I have advised even the Americans, sometimes I feel like Americans still need to work on their English, because hearing things like we was going to grandma's house, or yeah, it's the best, what's that thing? It's the most best. It can't be the most best food you've ever had. You know why? Because the word best comes from the word good, and it's already in its superlative term from its comparative term better. It's good, better, best. Have you ever heard that nursery rhyme? Good, better, best. Good, better, best. I shall never rest. I shall never rest until my good is better, until my good is better, and my better best. Who has heard that? Good. So it can't be the most best food you've had. No. It's the most best food I've ever had. Most best? No. It's either the best food you've had, or you've had better, or oh, it's good. I mean, these are just examples, because sometimes when I'm in these American conversations, I just want the heavens to open and just take me. It's time to go. I mean, not that way, please. Don't be extreme. But you get what I'm saying. Like, I've heard so many comparative and superlative terms used just ruggedly. And then some people will be like, oh, that's not going to put money in my pocket. We understand. But if it's not going to put money in your pocket, don't open your mouth and be telling me that my English is good, because my English is better than your great-grandfather's own. Sorry, but it's the truth. All right, let's get on to the next. Migrants, attention. It's all love. Trust me, I can get intense, but I'm just gisting you guys. On to the next gist. So, one thing I would say for my migrants that are coming to America, or that are trying to get a foot in the door, or that are trying to, just migrate here, period. I would advise that you consume a lot of American English. It will help your code switching. Don't come and be saying 2:30 when you want to say 2:30, or you want to say 2:30. If the British one is better for you to pronounce, please stick to it. And before I moved here, I used to say, oh, that some people that moved from Nigeria to America, how do you have British accent? You're being fake. Honey, it has nothing to do with fakery. You know how stressful it is when you're trying to explain something to somebody, something that's supposed to take maybe 2 minutes. They'll waste the next 10 minutes of your life that you can never get back just to pronounce one word or to understand something. Honey, if you're going to code switch right. And I have some books here for you. John Grisham's novels. I said this in my first episode. I love the man's novels. Just any American novel or novelist will do. You can also try American media that they speak good English. So me, for example, I don't consume any form of rap music. I mean, I can like musicians that do it, but rap is not just my thing. And the biggest misconception is that all black people must like fried chicken, fried meat, fried anything fried, and rap music. I don't like any of those things. That's the biggest misconception. I know the first time I came here, somebody was trying to be nice. They took me to KFC. When I got back home, I was like, sorry, I just don't like fried things. Fried things are not me. I just don't do them. I don't. And it's not like, I think it's just my body, or the fact that when we were growing up, my parents practically abused chicken or fish, and I would say how. I can just go to my dad, Daddy, I want to eat chicken. My dad will make them kill up to 10 chickens. And I'm not exaggerating, my siblings can attest to this. They will kill chickens, maybe not 10, but like 5 or 6 or some outrageous number. My dad will make them grill it just so that, and I said I just wanted maybe just the time, So just growing up having meat all the time, now that I'm older, I think my system is just not wanting anymore. So you see, it's not just with accents, not understanding accents, it's also not understanding the human being, right? Which has been my own experience. Yeah, I've talked about the lexical structure being flawed. Something that I think that I'm not saying Americans should work on it. I'm just saying, you as an immigrant, do not be derailed. The English that you know is probably right compared to, the American that you're trying to imitate. Just stay true to yourself. Strong accents are understood. I think that strong accents are heavily understood, and pretending not to understand African accents is just a stereotype, because you understand Hispanic when they say no English, going to the church, good evening, I don't know what I am doing, you see, it's coldy, it's very cold. You can understand them. But when me and my African siblings come and say shush, you're like, are you trying to say sponge? You're just being funny. We see you, and we know that you are ignorant as stupid can be. So I'm sorry I had to use that word like that, but not like I'm sorry, but you get what I mean. Like, anytime another immigrant that's not of this skin color opens their mouth, you can hear them. You think, hell, you even say their accent is sexy. You hear Persians when Persians talk, right? People from Iran. When Iranians talk, you're like, oh my God, your accent is so sexy. Oh my God, so sexy. You're excited. But when Africans open their mouth to speak, you're like, I can't understand a word of what she's saying. We see you. We know you're being stupid. And that, Migrants, concludes our gist for today. Don't forget, our difference, like you quoted earlier, is supposed to do what? Unite us and not limit us. And I'll say that again. Your difference is not supposed to limit you. It is supposed to encourage your uniqueness. So, if you are a migrant like me, or you plan to come, I hope I've been able to gist you enough today to relocate to the change that you deserve. My name is Maria Ocheja Ebo. Hope that was not a mouthful. We'll see you here next time. If you have any questions, information you'd like for us to share, send us a message, infomygist@centalolo.com, somewhere there. Again, it's infomygist@centalolollc.com. Send us a message and we will respond. Let's continue the conversation on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, now known as X, and of course here on YouTube. You can also catch me on Apple Podcasts, and apparently you can also catch me on TikTok. I don't even want to go into all of that, but hey, don't forget, migrant, to relocate to the change that you deserve. Thank you for joining me today. It's been real. I'll see you next time on our third episode.